The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched across 3 kilometers of polished black stone. Thousands of delegates from 12 different species filled the curved benches, their bodies ranging from the tall and thin Valorians to the massive rock-like forms of the Kos. Light from a nearby star poured through the transparent ceiling, casting long shadows across the ancient chamber. Ambassador Tella of the Valorian Collective stood at the central platform, her silver skin reflecting the starlight. She held a data tablet in her 4-fingered hands and spoke in the common galactic tongue. "The annual report on Earth," she announced, her voice carrying through the vast space. "Status unchanged. The humans remain a quiet world. They pay their tributes on time. They follow our laws. They have made no requests for advancement in status." A low murmur of disinterest passed through the chamber. Earth was boring. Earth was nothing. For 300 years, humans had been little more than a footnote in galactic affairs. They had discovered faster-than-light communication 60 years ago and had made contact with the Council shortly after. Since then, they had done nothing remarkable. "They're like trained animals," a Kreth delegate said, his rough voice carrying across the chamber. "They know their place." Laughter rippled through the Kreth section. The Kreth Empire controlled 40 star systems and believed strongly in the natural order of things. Strong species ruled. Weak species obeyed. Humans were clearly weak. Tella nodded politely and continued her report. No one paid much attention, 12,000 light-years away. Captain Park Doyan stood in the underground command center beneath Incheon, South Korea. The room was filled with screens showing every corner of Earth's solar system. Satellites watched the outer planets. Deep space sensors monitored the darkness beyond. Doyan was 43 years old, with gray starting to show at his temples. He had spent 20 years in the United Earth Defense Force, rising from a young recruit to one of the most respected officers in the service. He never smiled much. He had seen too much to smile. Captain Lieutenant Kim Yuna called from her station. She was younger, maybe 30, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "I am seeing something strange near Saturn." Doyan walked to her screen. The display showed a cluster of energy signatures, too organized to be natural. Ships, at least 50 of them. "Can you identify them?" he asked. Yuna's fingers moved across her controls. "Kreth Empire. A scouting fleet based on the configuration. But sir, they are too close. The treaty says they must stay beyond the Kuiper Belt." Doyan felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. The Kreth had never come this close before. "Send a query to the Galactic Council. Request explanation." "Yes, sir." The message went out at faster-than-light speed. It would reach the Council in minutes. A response, if one came at all, might take days. Doyan watched the Kreth ships on the screen. They were not moving toward Earth. Not yet. But they were not leaving either. Deep beneath the city of Busan, in a facility that did not officially exist. Dr. Han Jisoo wiped sweat from her forehead and stepped back from her workstation. She was a small woman, barely 160 centimeters tall. With hair she always forgot to brush and glasses she constantly pushed up her nose. Around her, massive machines hummed with power. Cables thick as tree trunks ran across the floor. A holographic display showed a network of satellites orbiting Earth, each one connected to the others by lines of blue light. "It works," she whispered. Her assistant, a young man named Cho Minho, looked up from his own station. "Doctor." "Project Hammer," Jisoo said, her voice trembling with exhaustion and excitement. "It works. The gravitational pulse generators are online. All 12 satellites are synchronized." Minho stared at her. "You mean we can actually—" "Yes?" Jisoo sat down heavily in her chair. "We can crush anything in orbit. Ships, asteroids, anything. The shields the other species use cannot stop gravity." "Nothing can stop gravity." She had worked on this project for 15 years. The government had funded it in secret, hiding the budget in 1,000 different places. Only a handful of people knew it existed. The Galactic Council certainly did not know. Jisoo looked at the holographic display. "I hope we never have to use it." In the command center, Do-Yan received the Council's response to his query. It was short. Earth's concerns are noted. No action required at this time. That was all. No explanation. No reassurance. Just dismissal. Yuna read the message and frowned. They do not care. They never care, Do-Yan said quietly. We are nothing to them. Just a quiet little world that pays its tributes and causes no trouble. He looked at the screen showing the Kreth fleet. The ships had moved closer. They were now inside the orbit of Neptune. Sir, Yuna said slowly, what if they are not scouting? Do-Yan did not answer. He was thinking the same thing. On the orbital station Vera 7. Ambassador Tella finished her report and returned to her seat. The Council moved on to other business. Trade disputes. Border conflicts. The usual matters that kept the galaxy running. No one noticed when a Kreth messenger entered the chamber and handed a data chip to the Kreth delegation leader. No one saw the cruel smile that spread across his face as he read. The contents the Kreth had been waiting for this moment for decades. Earth sat in a strategically valuable position, controlling access to a section of space rich in rare minerals. The humans were too primitive to exploit these resources properly. It was wasteful. It was inefficient. It was time to correct the situation. The messenger left the chamber and sent a signal to the fleet near Saturn. The message was simple. Proceed to Earth. Begin subjugation protocol. In the command center, Do-Yan watched the Kreth ships change course. They were no longer drifting. They were accelerating. Directly toward Earth. Sound the alarm, he said, his voice calm despite the fear growing in his chest. Wake up, everyone. Call the president. Call the general. Yuna's hand shook as she activated the alert system. Across the planet, sirens began to wail. People looked up at the sky, not knowing what was coming, but feeling somehow that everything was about to change. Do-Yan stood very still. Watching the enemy approach, for 300 years, humanity had been quiet. They had accepted their place at the bottom of the galactic order. They had smiled and nodded, and pretended to be harmless. But they had never stopped preparing. The silent planet was about to speak. The Kreth fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel just beyond. Earth's moon. 57 warships, their hulls black as coal and covered with weapon ports, arranged themselves in a perfect attack formation. The largest ship, a command cruiser nearly 3 kilometers long, moved to the front. Commander Vorath stood on the bridge of this massive vessel, watching Earth grow larger on his view screen. He was old for a Kreth, nearly 200 years, and he had conquered 11 worlds in his career. This would be his 12th. Such a small planet, he said, his rough voice filled with contempt. And they think they deserve a place among the stars. His officers laughed. The conquest of Earth would be simple. Humans had no real fleet, no advanced weapons, no powerful allies. They were alone and helpless. Vorath activated the communication system. His message would reach every screen, every radio, every device on the planet below. People of Earth, he announced, I am Commander Vorath of the Kreth Empire. Your species has violated Section 447 of the Galactic Resource Code by mining asteroids in the Kuiper Belt without proper species certification. The penalty for this violation is subjugation under Kreth authority. He paused, enjoying the moment. You have 6 standard hours to surrender all governmental authority to my representatives. If you do not comply, we will begin correction procedures. Your cities will burn. Your people will die. This is not a threat. This is a promise. The transmission ended. In Geneva, the United Earth Assembly building erupted into chaos. Delegates from every nation shouted at each other, their voices blending into a roar of fear and anger. Some demanded immediate surrender. Others called for resistance. Most simply did not know what to do. President Choi Sun-hye sat at the head of the great table, watching the chaos with calm eyes. She was 61 years old, former professor of international law who had never expected to lead humanity through anything more serious than trade negotiations. Now she faced extinction. Enough, she said quietly. The room did not hear her. Enough, she repeated, slamming her hand on the table. Silence fell. Every eye turned to her. Fighting among ourselves will not help, son, he said. We need information. We need options. She looked at the military advisors seated along the wall. General Beak, what can you tell me? General Beak Taiwu rose slowly. He was 70 years old, a veteran of conflicts that most people had forgotten. His face was lined with age and worry, but his eyes were still sharp. Madame President, the Kreth fleet has 57 ships. Our own fleet has 12. Their weapons are more powerful. Their shields are stronger. In a direct battle, we would lose. Murmurs of despair filled the room. However, Beak continued, we are not as helpless as they believe. He activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the air above the table. Ships, dozens of them, sleek and fast, unlike anything the assembly had seen before. For the past 40 years, we have been building in secret. Hidden shipyards on the dark side of the moon, factories buried deep underground. We have 43 combat-ready vessels. Armed with weapons we developed ourselves. The room fell silent. Even Sunhee looked surprised. Why were we not told? Someone demanded, "'Cause secrets only stay secret if no one knows them," Beak replied. The council has spies everywhere. If they knew what we were building, they would have stopped us long ago. He changed the display. A network of satellites appeared, connected by glowing lines. This is Project Hammer. Dr. Han Jasu completed it just yesterday. It generates focused gravitational pulses. Anything caught in the pulse is crushed. Shields do not help. Armor does not help. Nothing helps. Soon he stared at the display. You are telling me we can fight? I am telling you we can win, Beak said. But many will die. The Kreth will not give up easily. Even if we destroy their fleet, they will send more. This will be the beginning of a war, not the end. The room erupted again. Some called Beak insane. Others called him a hero. The debate raged back and forth. Sunhee raised her hand for silence. When the room quieted, she asked a single question. What happens to our children if we kneel? No one answered. The Kreth do not want peace, she continued. They want slaves. If we surrender today, our grandchildren will be born in chains. They will grow up serving masters who see them as nothing more than animals. She stood, her small frame somehow filling the room. I did not become president to hand our future to monsters. She turned to Beak. General, prepare our forces. We fight. Beak nodded slowly. Yes, Madam President. In orbit, Commander Vorath received a transmission from Earth. He expected surrender. He expected begging. He expected the usual pathetic display that conquered species always provided. Instead, he received 4 words. Earth declares war. Come. Vorath stared at the message for a long moment. Then he laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the bridge. They want to fight, he said to his officers. How amusing. How utterly amusing. Gave the order to advance. The Kreth fleet moved toward Earth, weapons charging. Ready to teach these primitive creatures the cost of defiance? They did not see the hidden fleet rising from the moon's surface. They did not detect the satellites activating in high orbit. They did not notice the thousands of soldiers preparing for battle across the planet below. The first railgun round hit Svorath's cruiser at 1/10 the speed of light. It punched through the shields as if they did not exist. It tore through 3 decks of armor. It killed 200 Kreth in an instant. Vorath was thrown from his feet by the impact. Alarms screamed. Lights flickered. His officers shouted reports of damage, of casualties, of impossible attacks from impossible directions. What? He gasped, pulling himself upright. What is happening? On the view screen, he saw them. Human ships, fast and deadly, pouring out of the darkness like a swarm of angry insects. They were small compared to his cruisers, but they were everywhere, and they were firing. Another railgun round struck his ship. Then another. Then another, Vorath realized, in that moment, that he had made a terrible mistake. The silent planet was not silent anymore, and it was very, very angry. Space around Earth became a storm of fire and metal. Human ships danced between the massive Kreth cruisers, too fast to track, too small to hit easily. Railgun rounds flew in every direction, punching holes through shields and armor. Explosions lit up the darkness like new stars being born. Commander. Shin Murray led the 7th Orbital Squadron from the cockpit of her fighter. She was 35 years old, with steady hands and a mind that worked faster than most computers. Her squadron had trained for this moment for years, practicing tactics that no other species had ever seen. "Break formation on my mark," she said into her communicator. "Target their weapon arrays. Make them blind before we make them dead." Her pilots responded with calm acknowledgments. They were afraid. Everyone was afraid. But fear did not stop them. Murray pushed her fighter into a steep dive toward a Kreth destroyer. The enemy ship fired at her, green plasma bolts streaking past her cockpit. She rolled left, then right, dodging death by meters. Now, she shouted, her squadron scattered in 12 different directions, each pilot targeting a different weapon port on the destroyer. Their railguns fired in perfect unison. The destroyer's main cannon exploded. Its secondary weapons went dark. The massive ship drifted, helpless. "Moving to next target," Murray reported. "Stay fast. Stay alive." In the Incheon Command Center, Captain Park Do-yeon watched the battle unfold on dozens of screens. Red dots represented Kreth ships. Blue dots represented human ships. Too many red dots were still active. Too many blue dots were disappearing. "We are losing the frigate Daegu," Lieutenant Kim Yuna reported, her voice tight with pain. "They are taking heavy fire. Shields failing." Do-yeon closed his eyes for a moment. The Daegu had 300 crew members. 300 people with families, with dreams, with futures that were about to end. "Tell them to fall back if they can," he said. "If they cannot, sir," Yuna's voice cracked. "They are not responding." On the screen, the blue dot representing the Daegu flickered and disappeared. Do-yeon forced himself to keep watching. He could not look away. These people were dying for Earth, for humanity, for him. He owed them the dignity of witnessing their sacrifice. "Send the reserve squadron," he ordered. "And get me a connection to Dr. Han. We need Project Hammer." In her underground facility, Jisoo was already preparing. Her hands flew across the control panels, activating satellites, calculating trajectories, preparing the gravitational pulse generators for their first real use. Minho said nervously, "The system has never been tested at full power." "We do not know. We know enough," Jisoo interrupted. "We know it works. We know it will save lives." She looked at him, her eyes fierce behind her glasses. "Sometimes you have to trust your math." The communication system crackled. Do-yeon's voice came through. "Dr. Han, we need Project Hammer. The Kreth are regrouping near their command ship. If we can hit them while they are clustered, I understand," Jisoo said. "Give me 90 seconds." She entered the final commands. The satellites responded, their generators humming to life. A targeting display appeared, showing the Kreth fleet's position. "Targeting locked," she announced. "Firing in 60 seconds." In orbit, Lieutenant Yuna made a decision. Her frigate, the Incheon, had taken heavy damage. Half its weapons were offline. The engines were failing. She had maybe 10 minutes before the ship became a floating coffin. But she could see the Kreth command ship on her screen. Its engines were exposed, vulnerable. If she could reach them, if she could hit them hard enough, all hands. She said over the ship's communication system, "This is Lieutenant Kim. I am ordering evacuation. Everyone, to the escape pods." Now, her crew hesitated. "That is an order," she shouted. Go, they went. One by one, the escape pods launched, carrying her people away from the dying ship. Eunice stayed at the controls. She was a pilot. This was what pilots did. She pointed the Incheon at the Kreth command ship and pushed the engines to maximum. Warning lights flashed. The hull groaned. She did not care. The Kreth saw her coming. They fired everything they had. Plasma bolts tore through her ship, ripping away armor, destroying systems. But they could not stop her momentum. At the last moment, Yuna activated her ejection seat. The cockpit exploded outward, throwing her into the void as the Inchin slammed into the command ship's engine array. The explosion was massive. The command ship's engines died. Secondary explosions rippled through its hull. Commander Vorath screamed orders that no one could follow. Yuna floated in space, her suit's emergency beacon flashing. She watched the command ship burn and allowed herself a small smile. Then Jisoo activated Project Hammer. The gravitational pulse was invisible, but its effects were not. The remaining Kreth ships, clustered together for protection, suddenly found themselves being crushed by forces they could not understand. Shields meant nothing. Armor meant nothing. Ships designed to survive anything were crumpled like paper in 18 seconds. 23 Kreth vessels were destroyed. The survivors tried to flee. Some managed to escape into faster-than-light travel. Most did not. When the battle ended, 41 Kreth ships were dead. Earth had lost 14. In the Galactic Council chambers, the news arrived like a thunderbolt. Delegates stared at their screens in disbelief. A quiet world had destroyed an invasion fleet. A primitive species had unveiled technology that should not exist. Ambassador Tella read the report 3 times. Certain there must be a mistake. There was no mistake. How is this possible? A Valorian delegate whispered. The Kos Elder, ancient beyond measure, spoke for the first time in decades. His voice was like stones grinding together. We underestimated them, he said simply. We looked at their small ships and their quiet ways, and we thought they were weak. We were wrong. In the command center, Doyeon received word that Yuna had been recovered alive. Her suit had kept her breathing until a rescue ship found her. She was injured, but she would survive. He sat down heavily in his chair and let out a breath he had been holding for hours. They had won. Against all odds, against all expectations, they had won. But this was not the end. The Kreth would return. Other species might attack. The galaxy had learned that Earth was dangerous, and dangerous things attracted attention. Doyen looked at the screens showing the wreckage of battle floating in orbit around his world. So many dead. So many sacrifices. We need to be ready, he said quietly. This was just the beginning. He was right. The Fury had awakened, and it would not sleep again. The Galactic Council had not seen chaos like this in 500 years. Delegates shouted at each other across the Great Hall. Accusations flew like weapons. Fear filled the air like smoke. At the center of the storm stood Counselor Dreth, the Kreth Empire's senior representative. He was enormous even by Kreth standards, his gray skin scarred from decades of warfare. His voice boomed through the chamber. The humans must be punished. He roared. They destroyed a legitimate enforcement fleet. They murdered thousands of Kreth soldiers. This is an act of war against the entire galactic order. Your fleet invaded their space? A Mendari delegate replied. The Mendari were a peaceful species, small and delicate, but they were not afraid to speak truth. You attacked without council approval. You threatened to burn their cities. What did you expect them to do? They are a quiet world. Dreth slammed his fist on his podium. They do not have the right to resist. They should have submitted and accepted their correction. The chamber exploded into argument again. Some species supported the Kreth. Others defended. Most simply did not know what to think. Ambassador Tella stood at her station, watching the chaos with growing dread. She had written reports about Earth for years, always describing them as harmless and primitive. She had been wrong. They had all been wrong. The great doors of the chamber opened. Silence fell as the human delegation entered. Ambassador Ojinho walked at the front. He was 52 years old, tall for a human, with gray in his short hair and a face that had seen both triumph and tragedy. His left arm was missing below the elbow, lost in the battle when debris from a Kreth ship struck his transport. He had refused a prosthetic. He wanted the council to see what their indifference had cost. Beside him walked Advisor Kang Yunji, a woman known throughout diplomatic circles for her brilliant mind and sharp tongue. She was younger than Jinho, perhaps 40. With eyes that seemed to see through every lie, behind them came a small group of aides. All humans. all standing straight despite the thousands of alien eyes watching them. Ginho stopped at the central platform. He looked around the chamber slowly, meeting the gaze of delegate after delegate. Most looked away. "Counselors," he said, his voice calm and clear. "I am Ambassador Ojinho, representing the planet Earth and all human beings. I am here to address the accusations made against my species." Dreth stepped forward. "You have nothing to say that matters? You attacked our fleet. I have not finished speaking." Jinho's voice did not rise, but something in it made Dreth stop. "When I am finished, you may respond. Until then, you will wait." For a long moment, no one breathed. A human had just silenced a Kreth counselor. Such a thing had never happened before. Ginho turned back to the assembly. 3 days ago, a Kreth fleet entered our solar system without permission. They positioned themselves in attack formation around our world. Their commander broadcast a message to every human being on Earth, threatening to burn our cities and kill our people unless we surrendered all governmental authority. He paused. The justification for this invasion was a minor regulation about asteroid mining. A regulation, I should note, that does not actually apply to quiet worlds under Section 12 of the Galactic Resource Code. The Kreth knew this. They did not care. They wanted our planet, and they believed we were too weak to stop them. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some delegates were checking their records, confirming what Jinho said. "We requested help from this council," Jinho continued. "Our message was ignored. We asked for explanation. We were dismissed. We stood alone against an invasion force 5 times the size of our own fleet." He lifted his remaining arm, showing the stump of the other. "I lost this defending my world. Thousands of my people lost far more. They died fighting for their families, their homes, their right to exist. They did not ask for war. They did not want war. But when war came, they did not run." The chamber was completely silent now. "For 300 years, Jinho said, humanity chose peace. We accepted our place at the bottom of the galactic order. We paid our tributes. We followed your laws. We smiled and nodded and pretended not to notice when we were mocked, exploited, and ignored." His voice grew harder. "We did this because we believed in the council. We believed that if we were patient, if we were good, we would eventually be accepted as equals. We believed that the laws of this assembly would protect us." He shook his head slowly. "The Kreth taught us that we were fools." Dreth tried to speak. Yunji stepped forward and fixed him with a stare that could have frozen stars. He fell silent. "Humanity does not seek war," Jinho said. "We never have. We are builders, not destroyers. We would rather create than kill, but we will not be slaves. We will not bow to those who see us as nothing more than animals to be trained." He looked directly at Dreth. "You came to our world expecting to find prey. You found something else. You found a species that will fight, that will bleed, that will die, but will never, ever surrender." The Kos elder stirred. His ancient voice rumbled through the chamber. "What does Earth want from this council?" Ginho turned to face him. "Recognition. Not as a quiet world, not as a species to be managed and controlled. Recognition as equals. Full membership, with all the rights and responsibilities that includes? Impossible." Dreth shouted. "They are primitives. They just destroyed your fleet," the Kos said calmly. "They possess technology we do not understand. They have proven they can defend themselves." He tilted his massive head. "What part of that is primitive?" The chamber erupted again, but this time the tone was different. Fear and anger were giving way to something else. Respect, perhaps, or at least acknowledgement. En stepped beside Ginho and spoke for the first time. "Humans have a saying," she said. "Do not mistake kindness for weakness. For 300 years, we were kind. We gave you every chance to see us as partners instead of servants. You refused." She smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "We are done being kind. From now on, we will be respected. You can choose to respect us as friends, or you can respect us as enemies, but you will respect us." She stepped back, The Cos Elder was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke. The humans have earned their voice. I move that their request for full membership be considered by the Council. Another elder, a Valorian, seconded the motion. The vote that followed was not unanimous. The Kreth opposed, of course, along with a few of their allies. But when the counting was done, the result was clear. Earth would be heard. Ginho bowed slightly to the assembly. Thank you. We look forward to proving that your trust is not misplaced. As he turned to leave, the Cos Elder called out to him, Ambassador, one question. Ginho stopped. What will your people do now? Ginho considered the question. We will rebuild. We will mourn our dead. We will prepare for whatever comes next. He paused. And we will hope that this is the last time any species makes the mistake of underestimating us. He walked out of the chamber with his head held high. Behind him, the galaxy began to change. 1 year passed. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The small planet called Earth, once dismissed as a backwater world of primitive creatures, had become something new, something important, something that made other species pay attention. Human ships now patrolled the borders of the Sol system. They were still small compared to the great cruisers of other empires, but everyone knew what those small ships could do. Everyone remembered what had happened to the Kreth fleet. In the underground facility beneath Busan, Dr. Han Jusu sat in her laboratory, surrounded by holographic displays and humming machines. She was working on something new. Not a weapon this time. Something better. General Baek Wu, now retired, walked through the door. He moved slowly these days, his body finally showing its age, but his mind was still sharp. Doctor, he said, looking at the displays. What is all this? Jisoo smiled. It was the first real smile she had allowed herself in months. A communication network, faster than anything that exists. Instantaneous contact between any 2 points in the galaxy. Baek raised his eyebrows. Impressive. But why? Because wars start when people stop talking. Jisoo adjusted her glasses. If everyone can talk to everyone else instantly, without delay, maybe they will solve their problems with words instead of weapons. The old general was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. You are a good person, Doctor. Better than most of us deserve. I just want to build things, she said. That is what humans are supposed to do. Build, create, make the universe a little better than we found it. The weapons were necessary. But this is what I really want to leave behind. On the other side of the world, on a hill overlooking Incheon, Captain Park Do-yeon stood watching the sunset. The sky was painted in shades of orange and red, beautiful in a way that made his chest ache. Footsteps approached behind him. He did not need to turn around to know who it was. Lieutenant Kim Yuna stopped beside him. She walked with a slight limp now, a reminder of her injuries. But she was alive. That was what mattered. Beautiful evening, she said. It is. Do-yeon kept his eyes on the horizon. I used to come here when I was a child. My father would bring me to watch the ships come into the harbor. I always wondered what was beyond the ocean. He smiled slightly. Now I know what is beyond the stars. I am not sure which is more frightening. Yuna laughed softly. The stars, definitely. The ocean does not try to enslave you. He stood in comfortable silence for a while. Ships moved in the harbor below, carrying goods and people, continuing the endless work of civilization. Do you think they will ever trust us? Yuna asked. The other species. Do-yeon considered the question carefully. Trust takes time, he said finally. Fear is faster. For now, they fear us. That keeps us safe. Eventually, maybe, fear will turn into respect. Respect might turn into trust, he shrugged. Or they might attack us again. We will be ready either way. That is not very hopeful. I am a soldier. Hope is not my job, he looked at her. But I have people like you, and Dr. Han, and the President. People who believe in better things. That is enough hope for me. In Geneva, President Choi Soon-hai prepared for the most important speech of her life. In 1 hour, she would address the Galactic Council as a full member for the first time. Not a quiet world anymore. Not a species to be ignored. In equal voice among the stars, her advisors had prepared a long speech, full of diplomatic language and careful phrases. She had thrown it away and written her own. She walked into the council chamber alone. The great hall fell silent as she took her place at the central platform. "Counselors," she began, her voice steady and clear, "I stand before you as the representative of Earth. 1 year ago, we were attacked. We defended ourselves. We won." She paused, letting the words sink in. "I am not here to threaten you. I am not here to demand apologies or payment. I am here because I believe that the universe is big enough for all of us." She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of delegates from a dozen different species. Humans came to the stars hoping to find friends. We found instead that we must earn friendship through strength. This was a painful lesson. Many of my people died learning it. Her voice softened. But we also learned something else. We learned that we are not alone in wanting peace. We found species who believe in cooperation, in justice, and the possibility of a better future. We found species who were willing to stand up and say that what was done to us was wrong. She nodded toward the Mendari delegation, who had supported Earth from the beginning. "To those species, I say thank you. Your courage gave us hope when we needed it most." She straightened her shoulders. "To the rest of you, I say this. We are ready to be your partners. We will share what we know. We will work toward common goals. We will help build a galaxy where every species can live in safety and dignity." Her voice hardened slightly. "But we will never again be victims. We will never again bow to those who see us as less than equals. We have proven what we can do when pushed. Do not push us again." She let the silence stretch for a moment. "Let this be the last lesson of its kind. Let us choose cooperation over conquest, friendship over fear. The stars are vast. There is room for all of us to grow." She stepped back from the platform. The Kos Elder was the first to respond. He rose from his seat, his massive form casting shadows across the chamber. "The humans have spoken well," he said. "They have earned their place among us. I welcome them." One by one, other delegates rose to add their voices. Not all of them. The Kreth remained seated, their faces twisted with hatred. But enough. More than enough, Earth was no longer alone. In a small room on the orbital station, Ambassador Oginho met privately with the Kos Elder after the ceremony. The ancient being moved slowly, his body worn by millennia of life. "I have a gift for your species," the Kos said. "Coordinates to a world my people have protected for thousands of years. A garden planet, rich with life, waiting for someone worthy to settle it." Ginho stared. "Why would you give this to us?" "Because you showed us something we had forgotten." The Korsa's eyes, deep and old as time itself, met Jinho's. Fury without cruelty. Strength without arrogance. You fought not to conquer, but to survive. You defeated your enemies, and then you asked for peace instead of revenge. He placed a data chip in Jinho's hand. "That is rare. That is precious. You have earned this gift." Jinho looked at the chip. "A whole world. A new beginning for humanity." "We will try to be worthy," he said. The Kos made a sound that might have been a laugh. "You already are, far away." In the dark corners of the galaxy, the survivors of the Kreth fleet gathered in secret. They whispered of revenge, of alliances with other species who feared humanity's rise, of plans that would take years to complete, but on Earth. Children were being born who had never known a galaxy that looked down on them. They would grow up knowing that the stars were not a place of fear, but of possibility. They would reach for those stars with confidence, knowing that their parents and grandparents had paid the price for their freedom, and in every corner of the council, a new phrase entered the diplomatic language. It was spoken sometimes with fear, sometimes with respect, sometimes with wonder. Never provoke the humans. The silent planet had found its voice, and the galaxy would never forget the sound.